Hey everybody, Nick here, and today got a disassembly and maintenance video as well as some first impressions for you on this little guy right here. This is the Ferrum Forge Stinger. Very interesting little piece, and how do I get this guy apart? Alright, so looking at this, a couple of things become immediately apparent to me. I am going to need to remove the pocket clip to disassemble this knife, I believe. So I'll go ahead and I'll start off by doing that. You can see here that the pocket clip is actually inlaid into like there is a cutout in the G10 here to let the pocket clip go through there. The reason I say I'm going to need to do that is because there are these two screws, then there's this one, but chances are, actually, I will guarantee you that there are two additional screws, maybe even three, down this neck of the woods here, which go all the way through the back spacer and which keep this guy together. So in order to remove those screws, I will need to remove the entirety of the G10 section of this knife on the back side here. And I don't think I can do it because I suspect this pivot is resting on the G10 from this side. So I'm making the bet that I need to come at it from this side and that'll be what takes this guy apart. Pop out the pivot here. Okay, so there's that, and indeed here are the two additional screws I have predicted. He says, full of himselfily. This is, yeah, I gotta pop these out here. Is this the same screw size? No, these are substantially longer than the internal screw, than the external screws. One thing that's worth noting is the amount of skeletonization that's been done here. Yeah, I'll just leave those in there. Put this here. And the knife is apart. There's been a fair amount of skeletonization done on the liners here, which will make this knife a little bit lighter than it might have otherwise been, which is a beautiful thing. Appreciate that very much. Pivot just popped through. It is a not free spinning pivot. Yep, see, right here. The pivot was resting on top of the G10, so I could not have taken this guy apart without removing the pivot, or taken this G10 side off without removing the pivot. And it wouldn't have mattered anyways because these screws are going in from this side, screwing directly into the titanium over there. So, yeah, there we go. The washers, the bearings are going directly against the... Is this tie? Is this stainless? I don't have a good sense of that. I don't know. Either way, it's going directly against the liner there. It's probably stainless at this price point. This is not a super expensive knife. We're looking at, I think, $90 here. So maybe they've pulled off tie. No, they wouldn't have skeletonized it this much if it were tie. Anyways, I digress completely. 100% digression rate. We are going ahead and we have cleaned off this. I'll clean off the pivot here now. Clean off the blade. And blade here is pretty vanilla. Nitro V steel. This is not the most common steel ever in daily pocket knives, but it's been used a number of times. Most notably the Millet Perpetua, done with TJ Schwartz, also from Mastrop actually. But yeah, so Nitro V is a nitrogen-infused steel. This is the Ferrum Forge, the folks who make this particular knife, and I'm just putting some 10-weight nano oil inside the area here. Ferrum Forges are they are not so far away from me. Their shop is something approximately 10 minutes away from where I exist generally, and so as a result, I've chatted with them a little bit more often than most makers. And, gone to, they'll do like little social events. At least they did in times back when social events could be a thing, right? But anyways, sorry if you're hearing some random noise there. The wife has just returned to the home, and she is, coming home. But anyways, they have talked, as I recall, the Ferrum Forges, who think a great deal about steel, have talked with considerable enthusiasm about nitrogen steels before, and so I'm not super shocked to see Nitro V here. I think it's a pretty good choice, actually, as well. Every time I've used it, I've been reasonably impressed by it, so that's nice. Let's go ahead and... What am I missing here? Not a whole heck of a lot. So let's go ahead and pop this guy back together. I don't feel the need strongly to use a thread locker here on these backspacer pieces because they are locked in place anyways by virtue of being underneath the G10. And considering that I would have to then remove these guys from the backspacer and recenter the backspacer anyways, I think I'm okay. All right, so those are in place now. Now I need to pop the pivot through. Yeah, everything's all out of whack right now, but that's because the pivot is not in position, holding things closed. Make sure this is indexed properly, such that the F is up, or correctly oriented, I suppose. Oriented, I don't know. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to be a little fancy in that I am going to start off. There we go. I've tightened the pivot now, but I also want to, loosen and then retighten these screws here while the pivot's in place, just to remove any residual tension in the system here. So I started off by going that route, and we have done that. Now I will slide the scales back into place. At this point in time, I should be able to get this knife dialed in and still not have to, put in a... Okay, this is too tight. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is loosen it up just a little bit here. No blade play. Dead centered. Super reliable action. Did I put... Let's play, did I ever put... yes, I did. I was checking to see if I put any lubrication in the detent ball hole. And I did. I just happened to see some of it leaking out onto the blade because I probably used too damn much of it. That is because I am, of course, X on Shabazz. So, what do we have here? I need to put in these body screws, or scale screws, I suppose. This is going to be a very good little host for aftermarket scales. That's always nice to see, because the scales themselves aren't, just be able to pop those guys on with some screws. Might need different screws if the scales are a little thicker. The aftermarket ones, that is. But yeah, that's good. It's a liner lock, which I appreciate. The reason I say that is not that there's anything inherently better than liner locks these days, or anything inherently better about liner locks, that is. But I say that because it is nice that you don't have to worry about, like, pressure on the detent ball, that kind of thing. People are figuring out how to get liner locks really dialed in detent-wise. So that's good. All right, we are reassembled here. So I'll go ahead and put this sort of out of the way here, and then I will give some first impressions of the knife, and my first impressions are quite favorable. Very, very favorable here, and for a couple of different reasons. I mean, to start with, it is a relatively small, relatively thin, slicey knife. Wow, Nick Shabazz likes it. What a shock. But anyways, I just realized I don't have my formal filming lights on. It's funny. Anyways, I digress. Overall first impressions, action is great. And by the way, this little groove here is actually quite sufficient for flipping it open yourself, which is good. Centering on this guy is pretty damn solid. I could even loosen this pivot a little more, I think. Let me do so, just to see if that improves things any further. Oh, no, that did, in fact, lead to a little bit of play. No play. And can I split the difference? Yeah, dead center. Oh, little play. Okay. So it needs to be favoring the show side, or the lock side, just a smidge. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Just a smidge off center here. Well, yeah. Anyways, so the overall first impressions here are a very thin, slicey Nitro V blade. Yes, I will take that. Very nice action. Yes, I will take that. Relatively small size. Yes, I will take that. And a price that is actually quite competitive. Looking here at, and by the way, about 3.25 inches, which is a good competitive size range. I feel like this is going to be a very nice piece for them. I want to spend some more time with this pocket clip here because the pocket clip is kind of a little weird. It's very thin and small. Ergonomically speaking, it actually works pretty well, and the pocket clip is not ideal ergonomically wise, but it seems to work out pretty much okay. And the knife works well in the hand. I think this is going to be a pretty good knife for them. I want to spend some more time with it. I got to form some further impressions. But for the most part, first impressions are positive, and that was how you disassemble it. So anyways, there you go. By the way, if I didn't mention it, if you're curious about any of the tools I'm using, nickshabazz.com/tools. But anyways, hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.